Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons because this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons. Now, the D&D meme that I have provided you with is something that is curious about Dungeons and Dragons. Now, Laura Bailey has D&D or dice superstitions, and they are not unique. They are things that a lot of us share. We are very superstitious about what happens with our dice. And we're talking about a game that involves gambling. Yes, you are rolling a dice, you don't know what the probability is. Well, you can calculate probability, but you don't know what the result is. So it would not surprise me, and probably should not surprise you, that D&D players and Dungeon Masters are superstitious about their dice. In fact, they have many different superstitions about what is going on with their dice. As a result, we have a whole lot of different things that we do with our dice to make sure the game runs smoothly for us. So here are a few superstitions, which I pulled off Facebook. I put a thread up regarding the topic, and this was spawned by some of the most peculiar things that players I had seen do at the table. It's been a product of, we've been watching Laura Bailey for a while now on Critical Role as she plays the game, and one of the more amusing things that she gets up to is rotating dice jails, checking dice before she plays the game, getting rid of bad rolls. These are all things that, as it happens, a lot of us actually already do. So it's not actually something that we can sort of laugh at Laura about. So always rolling out the bad rolls. I know a lot of people who will just sit there rolling that 20-sided dice. In particular, the 20-sided dice is the one that people are most concerned about until they feel like it's starting to roll above 10. And once that's rolling above 10, then it's all good. If the dice is not doing what it should be doing and it's rolling low, it goes into the dice jail, as Laura has her own little dice jail. And I know a lot of players actually have a dice jail they bring along with them. Now, dice that roll low are always the thing you're trying to avoid, right? Never use new dice. Now, apparently, never use new dice at the game because you have to form a relationship with that dice first before you play with them in the game. So you need to handle them. They need to understand you. You need to understand them. Once you've formed that bond and connection, then it's all good, right? So you do never pick up new dice and play with them straight away. Always form a relationship. Give each individual dice a name, because if you name them, they understand that they have a use, they are important to you, and that if they do something wrong, you can call them out. So therefore, individually naming your dice. Dice are laid out with, of course, the 20 face up, because the idea being that if you have the 20 facing up, the dice is being trained into understanding the correct position when you are playing the game. So once it's rolled and it comes to a stationary point, because the dice is 20 up, it knows that that's what it's supposed to be doing most of the time. I love this one. This is fantastic. This is quite common amongst players, and that is no strangers can touch their dice, particularly D20s. And certainly you would not mix your dice with other people's dice. That is unacceptable. Dropping dice on the floor, where if you drop dice on the floor, you need to apologize to the dice because you have not treated it with the correct respect that it actually requires. So do not drop your dice on the floor, otherwise you've got to apologize. Throwing dice out, so literally throwing dice around the room or at other people, which I find a little bit strange, or out the window seems to be a common thing, or in the bin if they roll ones. If they roll a 1 on the D20, they're in the bin. Now, high numbers rest up. So now the concept I understand with the high number resting up, the 20 or whatever number, the high number resting up is so that all of the atoms sink to the bottom of the dice and weigh it down. So essentially you wind up with a dice that is loaded. So you suppose you could say it's training it, but I guess the concept, people believe that this is what's going on. Now, I'm going to get into the belief of superstitions in a second. New characters get new dice sets. You start a new character, must have a new dice set. Never roll the same dice twice in a row, or if it starts rolling badly, you need to switch the dice out and use something else. This is one that really I find kind of strange, and I had a friend who used to do this. That is, you take the dice before the game, you put them in the microwave, and you heat them up for a very short period of time to sort of make all of the atoms inside it agitated. And this is supposed to be good for rolling high on your dice. I don't fully understand where they were going with this, but apparently microwaving your dice, I feel like that's like microwaving an egg. What's going to happen to what's going on inside the dice? Do dice explode if you put them in a microwave? Testing rolls of dice before the game. This is quite a common thing, testing the dice rolling. Only using translucent or transparent dice, never opaque dice. Now I can kind of understand that. I've done a lot of videos on testing the dice balance of your dice and using salt water and sugar water, and therefore, often we find that the translucent dice seem to roll a little bit better because there are less air pockets or less inconsistencies within the dice with translucent or transparent dice. So I can kind of understand where they're going with that one. But yet again, interesting how people come up with these ideas. Only rolling dice with a dice tower. If you need to have a dice tower if you're going to roll dice. And not rolling with a dice tower is like a really bad idea. This is something I haven't really come across very often, but apparently there are a few people out there that operate that way. Rolling 20s 3 times before the game. So you go through all of your 20-sided dice and you roll all of them 3 times just to warm them up, so they know, it's like stretching the muscles. So, doing a bit of yoga just before you actually play the game. So you have to roll the dice at least 3 times before the game just to work out all the kinks before you start playing the game. I love it. It's fantastic. Some great stuff here. Bad dice go in the cursed bag for dice. So you have one bag for the good dice, and then you have the cursed bag. And the cursed bag is where all the dice that you don't like go. You never mix cursed dice with the good dice bag. That's like a unacceptable and terrible idea. I like this one. This is fantastic. Kind of makes more sense, I guess, to my way of thinking if we're talking about superstition, and that is keeping a 4-leaf clover in your dice bag. Now, obviously, you get your 4-leaf clover and you want to sort of embed it in some sort of amber or cover it in something so that it's in there. I guess you could even chuck in a lucky rabbit's foot just for good measure. So something that is sort of like a talisman to help the dice work through the process of operating in a satisfactory manner. This is, out of all the things that I can think of, the one that I kind of can accept the most. How about blowing on your dice before rolling the dice? I've seen so many people blow on their dice and then roll them. It's like a tradition. Or one of the things I found very interesting is warming up the dice. So you put the dice between your hands and you rub your hands together really, really fast. This warms up the dice. I think it's the same kind of concept as putting it in the microwave, I guess. But the only difference is you don't have to worry about exploding dice if that's what happens when you put dice in a microwave. I have no idea. I've never actually done it before. But blowing on dice, certainly high up there amongst the options available to you. Leaving the dice with the one facing up. Now, I haven't seen this come up very often. I thought that was a bit peculiar because I was thinking, well, what about those people who are leaving the 20 facing up? So what's the idea of leaving the one facing up? Apparently, if you leave the one facing up, then all of the ones have been dealt with. The dice knows that that's not the dice number you want anymore, and therefore it will roll up something other than a 1. So this is odd. I know. I do realize. Praying to the dice gods, performing some sort of ritual to actually make sure the dice gods will be on your side when you play the game. Dice get worse over time. So if you have any kind of dice that you play with in the game, the older they get, the more stressed and worn out they get. So you need to go and get more dice. This is an interesting one. I love that. This is a good one too. That blue, black, and green dice are bad. they will always give you bad rolls. So don't use those sorts of dice at all. Pink, red, and purple die or dice are good, and they will roll well for you. Another one is having two 20-sided dice. You roll two 20-sided dice, but you only designate one of them as being the dice that's going to be appropriate for your dice roll. And the idea behind this is that the other dice is in competition with they're in competition with each other, each dice, and so therefore they will try to roll higher than each other. And it's sort of like you're putting your dice out there to compete with each other to get the best roll. And of course, you know, if the designated dice rolls low, next time it's not going to be used, and the other dice will get the honours of being rolled instead of the one that rolled low. Or, and this makes a little bit more sense, and that is only using game science dice. Only problem is that game science dice, I don't believe they make them anymore, or if you can get them, they're extremely expensive, and they're always running out of production lines on this product. So kind of a bit tricky to deal with, if you ask me. Now, the problem with dealing with these superstitions, and there's just two things that I would say, and that is, this means you wind up with a result where people have huge collections of dice, just many dice to sort of deal with. And of course, you've got multiple bags holding all these dice, some with cursed, some with good dice, and some with not so good dice. And then you've got to remember, when it comes to people who have a dice or Dungeons and Dragons dice superstition, remember, people don't see their own dice superstitions. What they see is the truth and the fact, and everybody else just doesn't get it and understand that what they're doing is correct and accurate and the right way to do things, which I'm not sure I can argue with, because who knows what will happen in the future with regard to the development of science, and whether we will find out that they were in fact right about all of those things we thought were just dice superstitions, in fact are entirely correct. Who knows? Now, I have plenty of videos on dice, on how to check dice. I have done Dungeon Master and Player videos. You're welcome to go and check those out. I have a Patreon page if you want to support the channel, where you can access all the live streams that go unlisted, and I do priority on the videos there as well, plus a few other special things. I also have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon, where you can buy stuff from them and it supports the channel. I also have a merchandise shelf, which you're welcome to check out if you want to as well. And make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.